What's up, everybody? It's the Alex Leak and Friends NFL Podcast, back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak, and I got the crew with me. I got Stoyo.
What's going on?
And I got Gavin.
Still this guy.
And we're doing the NFC Preview for the 2018 season. About to hit week 3 of the preseason, so it's heating up. Can't wait for some regular season football. And let's start in the NFC East. Stoyo, who do you have taking home the NFC East?
I have the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right.
I have them going 13-3. Another good season. After coming off a Super Bowl victory, I think they're going to manage just fine coming back. They do have a few injuries, but I expect them to take down the East quite easily.
All right. Should be a big year for the Eagles. Same coaching staff, getting Carson Wentz back. They've got weapons. What do you think about the Eagles this year, Gavin?
I think they're going to win the division still.
Uh-huh.
I think it's not going to be quite as dominant, though, as people are thinking. They did lose their offensive coordinator to a head coaching job.
Yep, Frank Reich.
And they're dealing with some injuries right now. Alshon Jeffrey is currently on the PUP. Their Super Bowl MVP, Nick Foles, is dealing with an injury, and Carson Wentz, their should-have-been regular season MVP, is also still coming back from injury. But I don't think that's going to hamper them too much. Their first 3 games are against the Falcons at home, the Bucs, and the Colts at home. So out of those 3 games, the opening game against the Falcons at home is definitely going to be the toughest. And I definitely see Wentz coming back by week 4 for sure when they face the Titans. So I don't see his being out being a major thing. And they also have they signed Mike Wallace this offseason and your favorite receiver, Marcus Wheaton. So they're obviously stacked at receiver. But Mike Wallace being a solid replacement for Torrey Smith, I think that's actually an upgrade there.
Yeah, I have the Eagles win the division as well. I have them going 10-6. I think that it is a little bit precarious with Wentz still not all the way ready, still not all the way healthy, and coming off a major knee injury. So we'll see how well he bounces back. The good news is they've got Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles as backup, who should be able to do all right, but he's a little banged up right now as well. And third string is Nate Sudfeld, so we'll see if he gets any playing time. If Alshon Jeffrey remains on the PUP list to start the regular season, he would miss the first 6 weeks of the season. So that could be a blow. He was the team's leading receiver last year. Stoyo, I know you're a big Alshon Jeffrey fan. How much do you think that hurts the Eagles if he's out for 6 weeks?
It hurts them, definitely. Alshon grabs a lot of double coverage and has reliable hands. So yeah, it's some loss, but they should be able to bounce back, I think. And the thing is, the NFC East is not as strong as it has been in the past.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be too worried about that. As long as Alshon gets healthy for the second part of the season, they should be all right.
Yeah, I think
but
even
that has been the storyline for Alshon a lot of times is his availability. So.
Yeah, and I think if you're an Eagles fan, if you start slow, who cares? And if you got Wentz and Jeffrey coming into their own late in the season, that's, you couldn't ask for a better situation right there. So they can make a run late. Gavin, what did you say the Eagles' record was going to be?
I think they're going to go 11-5 this year.
Okay.
No, 12-4 actually.
12-4. So I got them only 10-6. I have the NFC East a little more jumbled. In second place, I have the Giants with a winning record at 9-7, and I think the difference makers here is not having Ben McAdoo is a huge difference maker, and replacing him with Pat Shurmur is a good replacement, and then drafting Saquon. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a huge impact on the Giants in his rookie year, and could really help Eli Manning be comfortable there. Gavin, how do you have the Giants going?
I have the Giants going third,
okay,
with a 7-9 record.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the addition of Saquon Barkley and guard Will Hernandez in the draft, and then getting Nate Solder to protect the blind side is definitely going to help their team out. But I think that they still have Eli Manning as a quarterback, and yes, he has 2 Super Bowl MVPs, but that was a long time ago in quarterback years. So I think that they're going to be struggling. They lost some key defensive players, especially in their secondary. They do get their star receiver back, obviously. That coming back is going to be beneficial. But I think that being in still a tough division and facing some tough opponents down the stretch, I think they're going to struggle to pull out a winning record and will miss the playoffs once again, and will definitely regret not choosing Sammy D this year.
Okay. Do you think they should have gone Sam Darnold? What do you think on the Giants, Stoyo?
I have to completely disagree with Gavin, and I have the Giants coming in second place at 10-6.
Nice.
I have the Giants turning the ship around, and Eli Manning is going to prove what coaching means in the NFL. Because after having Ben McAdoo, who was just a train wreck in New York, you're going to see what good coaching can bring. I am so excited about watching the Giants this season because this offense is going to be probably unstoppable. Yes, you heard it. Un-fucking-stoppable. You're going to have Odell Beckham, Brandon Marshall, Sterling Shepard, and then your tight end is going to be Ingram. This is going to be such a good offense with Saquon just running around there, and they fixed the offensive line, got Solder out of New England, got Willie Hernandez, and right tackle Eric Flowers. This is just going to be one of the most exciting offense. I have bet big on the Giants to turn it around this year, so hopefully I am correct. So I'm just excited. 10-6.
Yeah, I expect big things out of Evan Ingram this year, their tight end. I think that fixing the line is big, and getting Saquon is big, and it's going to open up some passing lanes, and they're not going to be able to blitz Eli as much. And plus, with the line help, they're going to be blocked better. And I just think coaching's a big deal. One exception I'll have, Stoyo, is that Brandon Marshall is in Seattle now, not in New York anymore. But still, their weapons are there. Sterling Shepard, Odell Beckham, Evan Ingram, Saquon. I mean, they've got a lot of weapons. So I'm looking for 9-7 borderline playoff team. But if they do get into the playoffs, who knows? Maybe they'll get hot and make a run. But I agree.
I'm not sold on Pat Shurmur being what everyone's making him out to be as a head coach.
Okay.
He wasn't successful in Cleveland,
It's Cleveland.
Exactly. I won't hold that against him, but he also didn't have a winning record when he took over as the interim head coach for the Eagles in 2015. And yes, the Vikings did have a great offense last year, but he wasn't able to obtain a head coaching job after he was the interim head coach for the Eagles. He even downgraded 2 steps to a tight ends coach. So I don't know. I think the name is bigger than the talent. And I also do not agree about the offensive line. Eric Flowers is still a starter. I know he's not on the blind side, but I also think the blind side is overrated because if you look at the top tier defensive ends, they're not even coming from the left side. They're coming from the right. J.J. Watt, Von Miller, all those guys are from the right side. So Eric Flowers is still having to face them week in and week out. And so I think that they're going to be better, which hopefully they would be with a 3-13 record last year.
Yeah.
But I don't think the steps are enough to get them into a winning record this year. Those are the reasons why, at least.
Yeah, I can see that. And the only thing that I would debate on that is that I think Saquon is a great get because the offensive line will be better. I agree with you; it's not great. But if you can establish Saquon and get him getting chunks and being a threat, then that allows Eli to use the play action. And when Eli's using the play action, I believe that's when he's at his best. So we'll see. It's a big year regardless for Eli and the Giants. They need to get it done, get going in the right Eli doesn't have many chances left. So we'll see. Gavin, where do you have the Cowboys finishing this year?
I have the Cowboys finishing last in the NFC East this year.
Wow.
I think that what we saw from Dak Prescott last year, which was the big part of the reason why they struggled, I think that's more the norm than the first year. After teams were able to get some tape on him and watch him a little bit, I think that they were able to scheme against his play style. And also they did have some issues with the offensive line, so that's something that they, had struggled with last year. But this year they have next to nobody at receiver, really. Des Bryant being the obvious big loss that was there. But Allen Hurns is probably the biggest name that they have on their team this year to catch the ball. And he really hasn't done much in the NFL outside catch some garbage time passes from Blake Bortles a couple years ago. So they're going to have to lean really heavily on Zeke Elliott, who is one of the best backs in the league, but I don't know that he's going to be enough to get them out of the bottom of the NFC East.
Gavin, what do you think of the Cowboys saying that they're shutting down Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott for the rest of the preseason? Do you think that hurts Dak at all, or is this not really a big deal?
I think it could be a big deal. The reason I think that is because he has so many new receivers this year. A big issue with receivers when they change teams is getting some chemistry with their quarterbacks so they can learn each other's speed and that sort of thing. And he's got, all but Cole Beasley, I think and Terrence Williams.
Yeah, that's about it.
Who are third string receivers, bottom tier 2 guys at best. Outside of those guys, he doesn't really have a number one receiver that he has any chemistry with Witten and Bryant gone. So that's one reason why I think that they should play them in week 3 like most other teams do. And both those guys are young, haven't had injury issues, are durable, so I don't understand them shutting them down for the remainder of the preseason. And I would say that the coaches know best, but I don't think that Jerry Jones or that other jerk's name that's running the team,
yeah,
are the best at their jobs. So I could be wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
I would agree with you there.
Stoyo, what do you think about the Cowboys this year?
I have Dallas going 8-8.
Okay.
I just don't think they're going anywhere, as Gavin has said. There's just not enough weapons there. And I also think that Dak is going to be exposed a little bit this year. But I don't have an issue with him sitting out the rest of the preseason. I think for your starters, preseason is almost useless. And you want to have your superstar stay healthy. I remember LaDainian Tomlinson sitting out every single preseason, and he would go on to have amazing seasons, so I don't have an issue with that one bit.
Yeah, I have the Cowboys finishing 3rd in the East, going 7-9. I'm not sold on Dak Prescott. Yeah, he took a step back last year, and I don't know. Maybe he has some better weapons this year. I know that losing Jason Witten is a big loss. Losing Dez, to me, isn't as big of a loss, considering he wasn't getting very good a separation. Didn't have a great year last year. And I think a lot of it hinges on Zeke Elliott. If you get Zeke Elliott healthy for 16 games, or on the field at least for 16 games, that can be a difference maker. I'll say that I expect a decent year out of Tavon Austin in Dallas. We'll see. And I believe that 81st overall pick wide receiver Michael Gallup out of Colorado State could be a potential future star in this league. So if Dak can develop some kind of chemistry with the young Michael Gallup, that could be successful. But I got him going 7-9. Stoyo, where do you have the Redskins going?
I have the Redskins going in 4th place at 5-11. I have them completely just having a terrible season, even though I'm a fan of their QB.
Uh-huh.
But I just don't have any faith in the coaching over there. I don't know. Someone has to be last, I guess, in the NFC East, and I picked the Redskins to do so.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Redskins are one of the worst teams in football this year. And I don't think it's not anything against Alex Smith. He needs a good fit. His best years were in San Francisco when he had a lot of weapons and he had Jim Harbaugh. And then his best years to date were in Kansas City where he had a lot of weapons and Andy Reid and Nagy. And now I don't think it's a good fit at all in Washington. Their rookie running back Darius Geis goes down for the year already. They do bring in Adrian Peterson, but I mean he's got so many miles on him. And I just, more than anything, I don't trust the Redskins' weapons to stay healthy. And so I got them going 4-12 and dead last in the division. What do you think of the Redskins, Gavin?
Well, man, I am almost polar opposites of you guys. I have them going second place in the division this year, and I have them going 10-6.
Wow.
I think that a lot of the reason why they struggled last year was because of some injuries they faced on both the offensive and the defensive lines.
Uh-huh.
So now all these guys are healthy. I don't think that Alex Smith is as much of a drop, if any, from Kirk Cousins as a lot of people make him out to be. And as far as weapons go, he has some talent on that team, guys to throw the ball to. You've got Jamison Crowder, who is a great possession receiver. He has had some injury issues, but if he can stay healthy, he'll catch 110 balls for you. And then they traded for Paul Richardson, or acquired him in free agency, who was a good burner. Then Josh Doxson, who's also dealt with some injuries, but again, if he can stay healthy, I think that these will be some good guys he can throw to. Jordan Reed's another really talented tight end. Starting to sound like I'm Alex when I say if he can stay healthy. And losing Darius Geis was a huge blow to their offense, but they do have some good running backs or decent running backs in Chris Thompson. He's a great third down running back, great receiver at the backfield. And Rob Kelly could be a good first and second down guy, and Samaje Perine there too. And then they really stouted up their defense this year, obtaining Deron Payne as a nose tackle. Jonathan Allen will be healthy this year, starting there at the end in that 3-4. And Josh Norman's still there, which kind of has flown under the radar, I think. So I think that their team will be a lot better than it was this last year, assuming that they stay healthy. Their offensive line can be really good. Trent Williams and Morgan Moses are really good bookends. So I think they're going to give Alex Smith the protection that he needs to chuck the ball, all the 25 yards he can, throw it to Jamison Crowder and Josh Doxson.
Yeah, and
Josh Norman, they had no picks in the last year. That George Norman.
Well,
that's not all about picks, man. If they don't throw it his way, he can't pick the ball off.
That's true.
I don't know. I feel like he's not as good as he was, and that contract was a little bit ridiculous. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, yeah. That contract is nuts.
Yeah, I don't think he's worth that money yet, and he probably never going to be. Just the Redskins love to overpay for some players, and I feel like that comes back to hurt them.
Oh, yeah, it's the Redskin way.
Yeah.
Gavin, do you think Adrian Peterson will be much of a factor for the Redskins this year?
I hope so. He struggled a lot when he was in New Orleans, but if you look at the backfield that they already had Mark Ingram, who had played really well the year prior, and they had drafted Alvin Kamara, who we all saw as the year played out how dynamic of a weapon he was. So Adrian Peterson, in his time in Minnesota, which is obviously his claim to fame as Purple Jesus, was the best. He could get 20, 25 carries a game, wear a defense down, and make some plays. And he isn't able to do that in New Orleans. So then he got traded over to the Cardinals last year when they lost David Johnson. And if you look at his games last year, he actually did have some really productive games. His very first game, 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. 2 games later, 159 yards. And then he also had another game with 79 yards. Playing there against a and playing with a pretty bad offensive line there in Arizona. It really was not that great to go along with really poor quarterback play too. So I think adding him to Alex Smith, it could be beneficial. I don't think we're going to expect to see a 2,000-yard season from him or anything like that.
Yeah.
He is 33, and he's got the most carries out of any player over the last 10 years. He's been in the league, just barely eclipsing old Frank Gore. So that's obviously going to wear on him. But I think that he can be effective as long as he can accept a role of not being an every down back.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he's got left in the tank and if it affects the Redskins going forward this year. Speaking of Purple Jesus, Kirk Cousins is now on the Vikings. I've got Minnesota taking home the North at 10-6. He'll be under a lot of pressure. He's got tons of weapons. Dalvin Cook returns. He's got Diggs, Thielen, Rudolph. He's got all the weapons he could ask for. So it's a big year for Kirk Cousins. The defense, I expect the defense to be great once again. So Minnesota's going to be tough to beat. I think it's a tougher division this year, and that's why I have the Vikings falling a little bit to 10-6, but still pulling out the division. Stoyo, what do you think of the Vikings?
I have the Vikings going 10-6.
Okay.
I think they're going to be good again this year. I love that defense. One of my favorite defensive team to watch. Offensively, they should be better on paper, but Case Keenum really had a magical season last year, and to just have that Minnesota miracle happen, I don't even know if Kirk Cousins will be an upgrade there. So we will see how that works out.
Definite upgrade, Stoyo.
I mean, on paper, yes.
Yeah, on paper.
The run that Case Keenum went on last year, beating the Saints, do you really trust Kirk Cousins to have a few playoff victories? Well, I'm not sure about that.
Here's what I'll say. Case Keenum had a remarkable year, and that's not gonna be matched, I don't think. But I think it's underrated the impact that Dalvin Cook is going to have. I think Dalvin Cook was ready to have a breakout star year until I believe he tore his ACL, was done for the year. If not for that major injury, I look for a big bounce back year out of Dalvin Cook. And
he still needs to make it back. That's a difficult injury.
Yeah, coming back off of ACL.
Especially how explosive he was before.
Yeah, and he's got to learn to not plant so violently and take care of his knees. What do you think on the Vikings, Gavin?
I have them going second in the NFC, going 10-6, or NFC North, that is, going 10-6.
Okay.
I think adding Kirk Cousins was definitely better than retaining any of the quarterbacks that they had.
Yeah.
And then they also added Sheldon Richardson to stout up that defensive line. So definitely great depth there that they added. And then they added Mike Hughes, cornerback, to add some depth there as well. But they do have, they're facing some different challenges this year. They're now playing a first-place schedule, so that's going to be a little bit tougher for them. And they now have they've got a new offensive coordinator, and they have a defensive-minded head coach, which is obviously great for their defense. Mike Zimmer's defenses have always been great. But they've got a new offensive coordinator, so we'll see whether John DeFilippo can manage a whole offense rather than just the quarterbacks like he was doing in Philadelphia. He's got better weapons, like you already mentioned, Cook, Diggs and Thielen, and Kyle Rudolph. Some really fantastic weapons to throw to. But I think the big question mark on offense is going to be their offensive line. The recently deceased Tony Sperano was a big reason why that offensive line was able to be as productive as it was. Trust me, as a Lions fan, I can tell you that Riley Rafe is not a great left tackle. So they now have a new coach that, Sperano was a really veteran coach, had a lot of experience, and his offensive line was definitely his specialty. So Kirk Cousins might be on the run more than he was before, but he also, could be countered by the superior weapons he has in in Minnesota, on top of being able to not probably play from behind as much as he had in Washington. So I still have them playing well, but I think that where a lot of people are just assuming they're going to improve because they have a better quarterback. But there's a lot of other factors in there that keep them at like 10-6.
I'm going to make a bold statement. I'm going to say Dalvin Cook, even though coming off an injury, will be the best running back Kirk Cousins has ever had since college. I think big stuff out of Dalvin Cook this year.
It's not
good thing you said since college.
Yeah, that's not saying that much. I agree, Gavin.
Rob Kelly and Alfred Morris?
All right, Gavin, who do you have finishing second? Or, I'll rephrase that. How do you have the Packers finishing this year?
I have them winning the division.
Okay.
And I have them winning the division for one reason. 2 words, Aaron Rodgers, obviously.
I thought you were going to say Deshaun Kaiser.
Oh, yeah. That's some Notre Dame bias right there.
Yeah.
No, Aaron Rodgers is back. He's healthy, and he is pissed because they could have gone to the playoffs. He was back at the end of last year, but he couldn't get in game shape enough, couldn't get that last win out that they needed, and they benched him again afterwards. They traded away his favorite receiver in Jordy Nelson.
Yep.
They got rid of his QB coach. This guy is mad. This guy is trying to prove himself to his team, still trying to work out that contract. I think all of us in the NFC North, should be scared every time the green and gold show up because a pissed off Aaron Rodgers, a pissed off Tom Brady, when the elites show up and they're angry, people get hurt, and it's always on the other side of the ball. So defense on their side usually isn't much to call home about, but they did try and stout up their secondary by drafting 2 young, talented cornerbacks. They also got Tramon Williams back and somehow pulled in Muhammad Wilkerson to add to Jimmy Graham. So they added some good weapons, some real good talents. So I think that they're going to win out. They're going to go 11-5 and take the division per Aaron Rodgers' usual.
I'll say this, as a Bears fan, I do not like the combination of Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Graham. I don't like that one bit. We'll see. We'll see if Graham bounces back. He kind of had a slow, off years in Seattle, but I don't think it was a great fit. We all remember what Jimmy Graham did when he had Drew Brees, so it might be a little scary. What do you think of the Packers, Stoyo?
I have the Packers going 11-5, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, they have the best QB in the league, so it's easy when he's available to play. And as Gavin has mentioned, he's angry. And that doesn't even scare me anymore as a Bears fan because we lose to them constantly. So why be afraid? Because I know the ass whooping is coming, so I'm used to that by now. Yeah, and also they added a new DC, which I'm a fan of, Mike Pettine. And he has had some success. And I think if Green Bay gets a better defense and an angry QB, better tight end, we're in fucking trouble. Again. I'm tired of this. And guess what, guys? We could have drafted him. The Lions could have drafted him. The Vikings could have drafted him. But no. Green Bay got him, 25th overall or something stupid like that. So this is on our management.
I'm going to say this. I have the Packers going 10-6, finishing second in the division, and that's with a healthy Aaron Rodgers. Let me say this. They didn't really address their running back game. They still don't have they got, Ty Montgomery, but he's not a real running back. Let's be real.
Still worse, number 88. So
yeah, get out of here with that.
Back.
I'll take him over any Lions running back.
I don't know. I think... I'm just going to say this. I don't think Green Bay with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, of course, is scary and can beat any team at any time, really. But if you're not balanced, if you don't have a running game still, and, you get the Vikings or the Bears improved defense or, what's his name, Ziggy Ansah coming off the corner and hit Rodgers the right way. Who knows? So we saw with Romo, once you break that collarbone, it's a little easier to break it a second time. So who knows?
Yeah, but that's not the aim that you should aim for. Oh, let's see if we can hurt him.
Yeah, a healthy Aaron Rodgers is tough to beat. Let's be real. And so that's why I got him going 10-6. If I'm a Packers fan, I got to adjust the running game at some point. But you bring in Jimmy Graham, that's, you're asking for, that's a good combination right there. And we'll see if Aaron Rodgers is highest paid in the league once Week 1 kicks off. And that would make him a little happier.
Despite my number 88 comment, I actually think that Ty Montgomery is a better running back than a lot of people give him credit for.
He's not bad.
2 years ago, when he had Aaron Rodgers at the helm for all the games that he was rushing for, he averaged almost 6 yards a carry, and he has really good vision. He's not built like your prototypical running back, but when you have some good blocking, and when people are scared of Aaron Rodgers, you can be effective, and you get him in the open field, and he can make some plays for you. I don't think that he's a top 10 running back in the league or anything like that, but I don't know that it's as bad as some people make it out to be. They also have some young guys, Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, that are battling with some injuries right now, and we haven't really been able to see them play and have the opportunity to really show off their skills. But I think they have some talent there, and it might not be quite as bad as we make it out to be, just because they don't have any big names.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there in Green Bay. With Aaron Rodgers on the field, they're always scary. I'll make a bold prediction now that I'm going to start talking about my Bears. I'm going to say that we're not getting swept by the Packers this year. I'm just going to say that right now. If it happens, I'm going to be mad again. But I'm saying this is the year we don't get swept by the Packers. We also don't get swept by the baby blue jerseys either. But anyways.
The Titans?
The Titans will not sweep us ever again.
So I got the Bears finishing third in the North at 7-9, which will be improved off of last year. I love that we got Roquan Smith signed, and he should be a go for Week 1. I think he's the future of that defense. Nasty middle linebacker, or a nasty linebacker, interior linebacker. I can't wait to see him on the field. I think that last year we were a top 10 defense. I think with Vic Fangio and the additions, I think that we'll be a top 5 defense this year. At least I'm hoping. I hope we take a step forward. And hopefully with Nagy, our offense takes a step forward. Hopefully Trubisky takes a step, and we can get something out of Allen Robinson, maybe something out of Kevin White, who knows. I expect Trey Burton to be a big impact player for the Bears this year, and I just want us to be competitive. No sweeps. No Detroit sweeps, no Green Bay sweeps, no Minnesota sweeps. Let's be competitive. Let's win some games that we need to win. So I got them going 7-9, but it'll be an improvement. What do you have the Bears doing, Stoyo?
I have the Bears going 14-2, obviously. And we're going to dominate. No, I don't.
What happens when you wake up, though?
Damn it. Well, I have the Bears going 8-8.
Okay.
Even though we did a lot of good things in the offseason, there's a huge question mark at QB. Is he actually going to be good? We don't know because of the GM who drafted him. This is the same guy that gave Mike Glennon $55 million. And the more I think about it, the more I'm afraid that Trubisky is going to be the third best QB out of his draft class and the first one taken. We could have had Deshaun Watson or Mahomes. So at this moment right now, I would prefer to have Watson. In the future, who knows? But I think we're going to find out really quickly if Trubisky works in this offense. And if it doesn't, then we're in fucking trouble. But besides that, I'm a fan of Roquan Smith. It's too bad that he held out. It's even worse that he got hurt after holding out. So I don't know what to think of that. And also, my biggest issue with the Bears is we have absolutely no one at defensive end. We have Leonard Floyd, who's hurt all the time, and besides that, nobody. So when you have no pass rush, it's just going to cost you a lot of games. And like you, Alex, I hope we don't get swept again in the division because that was embarrassing. But unfortunately, the North is arguably the toughest division in football. So it's gonna be a tough year, and hopefully we can make some progress and come out 8-8.
I would say I'm not as worried about Trubisky as some. I think that last year it's hard to tell. Last year we didn't let him throw the ball that much. We hit him. We ran the ball every chance we could get. I expect a big step this year from Trubisky. I expect more down the field passes, more aggressive. I expect to see more out of his feet, him running with the ball, picking up first downs. I expect a improvement out of Trubisky this year and a better year. But that's just me. We'll see what happens. I'm just hoping for the best. I mean, it's hard to say, but I wanted Deshaun Watson at 3, and he was there, and we went with Trubisky
at 2.
At 2,
we traded up, yeah.
We traded up, which was idiotic. I don't agree with everything that Pace does, but I hope that he pulled a rabbit out of his hat on this one, and hopefully it works out. Gavin, how do you have the Bears doing this year?
I have them improving as well. I have them going 7-9.
Okay.
On this season, and finishing 4th in the NFC North because that's just how it should be. I think, like Stoyo had mentioned earlier, it all rides on Mitch Trubisky.
Yep.
They had a stout defense last year, and while their pass rush, they didn't land any studs. They did get Aaron Lynch, who has shown some success in previous years, so maybe he can get re-sparked there in Chicago. But the big difference, I think, is on the offensive side. They did lose guard Josh Sitton, who was a really talented guy, but they also drafted James Daniels, got a steal in the draft there in the second round. They also got Allen Robinson, who has shown that he can be a number one receiver before. They also got Taylor Gabriel, who's a really good, I think they can use him on some gadget plays. And Anthony Miller, the rookie from the third round, has shown a lot of skill in this preseason, so he could be a threat to look for. And then Trey Burton, the tight end who was able to be useful and effective in Philadelphia despite being behind Zach Ertz. There's a lot of offensive weapons there for Trubisky to throw to. So if he can progress, I think that the Bears have a bright future ahead of them, and they've made some quality moves to make up for all the bad moves they made over the past years. But I still think that Trubisky's still young. He's learning a new system now, the new head coach, which we've seen in lots of other situations. New coordinator, a new system means taking one step back, at least just for a little bit, as you're learning a new system. But I think that the future at this point, there's no reason to not think that it's bright.
Yeah, and I agree. A good call on the Anthony Miller. I think that could be another future star, a big time guy. From what I've seen in preseason, I like what I've seen, and he just looks like a playmaker out there. He looks like he's more reliable than some of the other guys we have, and that could develop into a nice weapon for Mitch Trubisky.
I totally agree with that, but my issue with that is, we did draft Daniels and Anthony Miller, but we drafted a wide receiver and a center 3 years ago in the first and the third round. So basically, we have to redraft players that we already drafted because Pace
they were
completely
misses.
missed his first draft.
Yep.
So that sucks. I think that the rebuild is taking a little bit too long, and we should have been a little bit better. And one thing I am excited about is I'm excited in seeing an NFL offense in 2018. Not the John Fox run, pass that we've been watching for the last few seasons. So some trickery. Matt Nagy promised he's going to be aggressive. So this is how you win football games, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In today's game.
Yeah,
You just have to keep pushing. Look at what the Eagles did in the Super Bowl. They won that game by taking it to the Patriots, and this is how football is meant to be played.
Yep, and I say look out for the tight ends in the Chicago system. Look out for Adam Shaheen if he can stay healthy, and look out for Trey Burton. They can both be big impact guys for the Bears this year in Nagy's system. Gavin, let's get your take on your Detroit Lions this year.
I had the Lions going 8-8 this year.
Okay.
So finishing third in the division. New head coach, which I'm not sure how to feel about him. It's strange to have somebody be a coordinator for such an awful defense, production-wise, land a head coaching job. But what I do really like about him is that he's a Bill Belichick disciple, and hopefully, despite all the other Belichick disciples failing as head coaches, that he can at least bring the atmosphere and the locker room to the Lions, because we have desperately needed that, and so hopefully he can bring that to the team. We shored up our offensive line, filling in for the often injured Travis Swanson, drafting Frank Ragnow in the first round. Didn't surrender a single sack in the SEC, which is really impressive. Tried to help the running game by bringing in Kerryon Johnson, who I think this year at least he's going to be more receiving running back than between the tackles kind of guy. But I think that with Stafford having another year, with Golden Tate, Marvin Lewis, and hopefully a better defense with a defensive-minded coach, we can still remain mediocre.
If I were you, Gavin, I would switch. I would have Amir Abdullah be your pass-catching guy. Well, did you say he had problems dropping balls? Because
Amir Abdullah has problems not being broken.
Because I remember him in college, and he was a good pass-catching back, and he would get out there on the edge and make people miss. But Kerryon Johnson can be a good back for you guys. He did a lot of good things.
Only.
Huh?
By name only.
No, he was good in Auburn. Gavin, if say the Lions do go 8-8, are you happy with that? Is that progress, or what do you think?
Honestly, I think that talent-wise on the defensive side, assuming that the reason we go 8-8 is because we have to try and just put up more points than the other team, which sounds really basic. But what I mean by that is they're putting up 32 points, so we need 33.
Yeah, shootout.
That's going to that's what I expect, honestly, is that it's going to be typical Lions, just it's going to be a gunslinging show, because I think we lack a lot of talent on the defensive side. We really only have one edge rusher in Ziggy Ansah, and he's been dealing with injuries over the last couple years. So if he goes down, I don't really know who we have that can come in and chase the quarterback. We didn't address that this year in the draft, and didn't really bring in anybody that was noteworthy in free agency. So Darius Slay is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, but I think that you just don't throw at him, and he's not a concern. It's not incredibly hard to deal with if there's only one good guy on defense, you just don't go towards him. So that's my biggest concern, is that we just don't have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. And we saw with the Patriots this last year when their stud linebacker from Alabama, whose name I can't remember, not Courtney Upshaw, but the other one.
Hightower.
That's the guy. When he went down, their defense, especially in the middle of the field, kind of collapsed, even though they had good safety play and good cornerback play. So I'm questioning how great of a defensive coach our boy Matt Patricia really is.
Yeah, we'll see. He's going to have to, he's got a project there in Detroit. He needs to make the defense better first. And he's got the quarterback. The quarterback's got weapons. So we'll see what kind of impact Patricia has in year one with Detroit. Stoyo, what do you think about the Lions this year?
I have the Lions being thrown out of the NFL and sent to the CFL immediately, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh, then they could play in your hometown then.
Oh, yeah? Great.
They can pick up Manziel, too.
They can play in France? Awesome. Anyways, I have the Lions going 7-9. I'm still surprised with Jim Caldwell being fired and being replaced by Patricia. If you had like someone else in mind that you already like worked out a deal, I would have been perfectly fine getting rid of Caldwell. But I'm not sure that Matt Patricia is an upgrade. As Gavin has mentioned, Belichick's disciples don't usually turn out to be the greatest, but I think that Patricia is a DC and not of a head coach material. Maybe I'm wrong. I think he's better suited at just a DC. And the last few seasons, he struggled, I think, or the New England defense struggled. So they almost bought him or signed him at the wrong time. Maybe 2 years ago it would have looked better on paper. But yeah, I have Detroit taking a little bit step back, going 7-9. And at some point, not having a running game catches up with you. And Stafford can only do so much. I don't know how you fix that offense. I don't. But I do think that the Lions have a decent defense. They have a good safety, a good corner. And you could definitely add a few more pieces there. But overall, you have to fix that offense, I think. I just don't know how.
Yeah.
We also brought in LeGarrette Blount this year, which I think will be a good addition for a actually talented between the tackles, short yardage back.
I keep forgetting about him. Yeah,
he played well last year in Philadelphia. So I think that between him and Kerryon Johnson and Theo Riddick, that they could be really good complements to each other and help the running game. As mentioned before, we drafted a new center to take over from our injury-plagued center from before, and we also started the first 12 games, I believe, last year without our starting left tackle. So now he's back. So I'm hoping that a fully healthy and full off season to practice together offensive line and getting that chemistry established can help the offense, help the running game, have a more balanced team, and that I think could be really beneficial and not put so much weight on the defense, which is probably the weakest part of our team.
I have heard that. I've heard that Frank Ragnow is getting some good reviews and that the offensive line has been getting some good reviews so far in camp and in preseason. I do wonder, I have the Lions finishing 4th in the division. I do wonder if the move to hire Matt Patricia is just Bob Quinn being a Patriot and saying, I want a Patriot guy.
Probably.
Yeah, Jim Caldwell has the best record, ever, as a Lions head coach.
In franchise history.
Yeah, and if you're going to make a move like that, that's fine, but you got to have a stellar name, a stellar guy to replace him with. And if you don't, then why are you making the move? So my headline is new coach, same Lions, ? And I got them going 6-10. I'm a little bit biased for sure.
I love it.
A little biased, that.
But I have a feeling. All right, the Lions. What was the Lions' record last year, Gavin?
9-7.
All right, 9-7, and a couple. The Lions always find a way to have these comeback close wins, and they swept the Bears last year. So 2 things I don't think are going to happen. I don't think they're going to get as many close comeback wins. And I don't think that they're going to sweep the Bears. So that's why I have them falling to 6-10. So there's the biased Chicago take on Detroit. Do you have a rebuttal, Gavin?
No, biased Chicago take. It's all just nonsense.
All right. So,
I'll add something.
Yeah.
I just want to say that Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback. It takes me very, very... I can't even believe I'm saying this, but yeah. Congrats, you guys have a good quarterback. I used to hate the guy, but now I realize he is one of the best QBs in the league.
So, do you mean great or good? Because you said great first.
I will re-say great. He's a great QB.
I'm going to say who?
All right. I said what I need to say.
I mean, no, Matthew Stafford's decent, but what's his winning percentage against teams above 500 though? You got to beat the teams with winning records. That's
you
not all.
Throw for 678 yards and 98 touchdowns when your defense can't cover. Yep, that makes a lot of sense. I forgot this was a one-person sport. Get the fuck out of here, man. Come on. Our defense was garbage for years.
That's true.
For like 5,500 yards, and we still went 6-10.
That's
and
true.
That's on him.
But
that's on him. How is that on him?
I've seen Stafford.
It's not always been on him, but he has thrown away a few games.
Yes, I've seen.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, so is Aaron Rodgers. That shit happens. I'm not
seen.
saying that he's an all-time great, but to call him decent, that you're talking about him being like a 22-16 quarterback in the league. Get the fuck out of here, man.
I got Stafford maybe top 15. I got Stafford top 15.
Come on, Alex. How am I arguing this side?
Okay, let me make a list. Guys I would take over Stafford: Russell Wilson, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jameis Winston, Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins.
Jameis Winston?
Yeah.
Come on, Alex. Oh, come on.
I mean, I'm just saying it.
You'll take Kirk Cousins when you're just griping about winning percentage against good teams?
Give Kirk Cousins a decent team around him, which Stafford hasn't.
Okay.
Stafford hasn't always had the best team around him, but he's also had one of the best wide receivers the game has ever seen.
That's very true.
So I'm biased. I'm being a hater. I realize that.
I'm biased. I've learned to understand that Stafford is a great QB. Unfortunately, it sucks. Trubisky was the second pick overall, and he's the worst QB in his division right now.
Okay.
Hands down.
But I mean, you're talking about a guy that's played 1 year in the league in a system that was not in his favor. So I
would barely call that a system.
Yeah. So let's give him a year and let's reassess.
It doesn't matter even the year after. Those guys have been doing it for years and years. I mean, this is why the Bears are in the toughest division, I think.
Well, what has Stafford been doing for years and years?
I mean,
the Lions haven't won. The Lions haven't won the North yet. They haven't won a playoff game yet. At some point, the elite quarterback needs to take over and win a playoff game. Aaron Rodgers has not had great teams around him his entire career.
Well, yeah, but Aaron Rodgers is one of the best.
That's true. That's true.
That's not even the same.
That's true.
Level as Stafford.
But I'm saying
no one said Stafford was elite.
Okay.
Except for your comparison. Just
all right, we can somewhat agree on this. So, let's go to the NFC South. Gavin, who you have taken home the South?
I have the New Orleans Saints winning the South this year.
Nice.
They got screwed over in the playoffs by themselves. And I think that they had a really good chance of making the Super Bowl had they been able to just defend the simplest pass play. Anyways, we're going to move past that. I think their defense is really stout. No major losses there. Kenny Vaccaro is a really talented guy, but he was often injured, so I don't think that his loss is truly major. But they made some good additions on offense. They added Cam Meredith, who, as you Bears fans know, is a really talented wide receiver when he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
German Bushrod, good depth for the offensive line. And they also added Patrick Robinson from the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles to add as cornerback to help out with a already pretty good secondary there in New Orleans. They do miss Mark Ingram for the first four games, but I don't think that's going to be such a big deal because they have Alvin Kamara there, who's shown that he can be productive between the tackles and catching the ball out the backfield. So I have them going 13-3 and winning the NFC South, which I think is at the top is one of the best one of the best divisions in football, but it's got that one underlier down at the bottom that we'll talk about later.
Hey, I'm right there with you. I'm gonna agree. I got the Saints going 11-5 in a competitive division. I think that Breeze is trying to go out on top, so he's giving everything he can to finish on the top, get another Super Bowl win. And they were close last year, like you said. I think if the Saints beat the Vikings, they have a decent shot to get past the Eagles and Nick Foles. So, 11-5 Saints. I really like the addition of Marcus Davenport to go with Cam Jordan on that line.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Saints will be tough to beat. I got, look out for the Saints again. They'll be tough to beat. What do you think, Stoyo?
You guys pretty much said everything that I thought. I have the Saints going 13-3. Kenny Vaccaro was replaced by veteran safety Coleman. Also, Marcus Davenport is a great sign. I pretty much exactly what you guys said, because Cam Jordan is going to get double teamed, so I expect Davenport to be in the talks for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Also, it'd be interesting to see if Marcus Williams can bounce back from the Minnesota Miracle, because, as you just said, if that happened, who knows? The Saints won that game. Drew Brees put the team on his back, and I remember seeing at the end just a 5-second clip of just Drew Brees sad, not even angry, looking sad. And I'm like, Drew Brees, I am so sorry, because
he did everything.
Super Bowl and retired.
Yeah.
But now he has to come back, and the Saints are going to be very interesting to watch, and I expect them to be one of the best teams in the league next season.
Yeah, that drive by Drew Brees on the Vikings defense in the clutch was a thing of beauty, and should have been the game winner. And I am rooting for Marcus Williams. He went from potential hero with that nice interception earlier in the game to that horrible play. So I think he'll bounce back. Everyone that I've heard talk about him says he's a great guy and a great teammate. So we'll see. The only thing I don't like about the Saints is Sean Payton, but hey, he's a winner. So
and former Bear.
Was that true? I didn't know that.
No.
But regardless, I don't like him. So, anyways, let's go in second place in the NFC South. I have the Atlanta Falcons going 10-6. I really like the addition of Calvin Ridley to an already. You got Mohamed Sanu, Julio Jones. What's that? Is it Austin Hooker or something like that? Hooper, yeah. He's sick. Two-headed monster at running back, and you add Calvin Ridley to that with Matt Ryan. Sheesh. I got them going 10-6 and finishing second, but they're going to be tough to beat as well. What do you think of Atlanta, Gavin?
I have the same prediction that you do. I think that Matt Ryan, with another year in Steve Sarkisian's system, we're going to see some improvements from him. There's a lot of talk of the departure of Shanahan and how crucial that was to him, and that definitely affected him. But if you look back to his first year in Atlanta, you can see that Matt Ryan was not as good as he was in his second year. And we see this throughout the league where, quarterbacks learning a whole new offense. If the coordinator does not adapt their system to their quarterback, but rather has the quarterback adapt to their system, can really struggle. I don't like Sarkisian too much as an offensive coordinator, but I think the talent that they have in Atlanta will overcome that, and a second year with Matt Ryan and the rest of the guys in that system will be beneficial. Calvin Ridley already has experience in that system, so that won't be as big a jump for him. I think he'll be a really good addition to Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu there. They did have some pretty big losses, though, on defense, though. They lost Adrian Claiborne, Courtney Upshaw, and Dontari Poe, who were all crucial in their defense being relatively good last year. So I think that they might struggle a little bit more on defense, and they'll make up for that on offense. But I think that that'll just even out, and they'll remain 10-6 like they did the year before.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to be a little bit more offensive based, and the only thing I can say, if we're picking on Sarkisian, I think it's nitpicking because really it comes down to situational play calling. I think for the most part, he does a pretty good job, and he's got a lot to work with. So we'll see how he does in year 2 there in Atlanta. I find myself kind of rooting for him after picking on him a lot last year. So, Stoyo, did I ask you about the Falcons?
No, yeah. I'm going to disagree that we're nitpicking about Steve Sarkisian. With Shanahan, the Falcons led the league with 33.8 points a game in 2016. And in 2017, under Sarkisian, they dropped to 22.1. So that is way more than nitpicking. And pretty much the only question mark I have for the Falcon is Sarkisian. When you have an offense with former MVP Matt Ryan throwing the ball to Julio Jones, Sanu, and Calvin Ridley, and that needs to be an offense that score at least like 27 to 30 points a game. So this is like a year make it or break it for Steve Sarkisian, because if they don't make it back to the playoffs, that's it. I mean, what else do you need? Like, I could get 25 points a game with that offense.
Yeah, but my point on Sark is this. I think he's a career college guy pretty much. Last year was a rarity, him in the NFL. And he's no Kyle Shanahan. I think he's more of a project OC in Atlanta than... Kyle Shanahan's one of the smartest offensive minds in the game. He's been in the pro game forever. So... I find myself rooting for Sarkisian a little bit. I do agree he's got plenty of weapons, so no excuse. Adding Calvin Ridley, no excuses this year. That needs to be a better offense. I agree. Stoyo, how do you have the Panthers doing?
I have the Panthers going 11-5.
Okay.
And I think that Cam Newton is going to put up a show this year. And especially with all the off-season gossip that's been going around him. I don't know why he doesn't get any respect. He is a former MVP, one of the most dominant running QB. And, I'm very excited. I'm a fan of the Panthers. I like their old-school mind coach. And they have Luke Kuechly, who I'm a fan of. Greg Olsen, former Bear, that we miss truly.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey, and also they drafted Devin Funchess replacement, and that's gonna be interesting to see.
Devin Funchess is still there.
Calvin Benjamin.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were thinking. DJ Moore, that's a good get.
Yeah, the first wide receiver drafted this year.
Yeah. He got a speeding ticket recently, but that's a minor thing.
That's positive. That means he's fast.
Really fast. I think he was going like 115 and a 50 or something.
Yeah.
But that spells good news for more help for Cam Newton. Although I have them finishing third in the division at 9-7. Cam is a beast, but. I hate to say this, but I think there may be a little something to what Kelvin Benjamin was saying as far as Cam Newton's accuracy at times. Cam Newton is a beast running the ball. He's a great quarterback, but at times, I think that he struggles with his accuracy. So, just looking at Cam Newton, you would think he could take that team farther and be better. I don't know. I have them going 9-7. Tell me I'm dumb for thinking that, Gavin.
Yeah, I think that there might be nitpicking, if we're going to be using that word tonight.
Yeah.
The Cam Newton's accuracy. We've seen multiple receivers, whether it be Steve Smith or Greg Olsen or that one guy that was a Buckeye. Speedster, Ted Ginn, was successful, and that we're talking about deep throws here now too. So that that's a whole different type of accuracy. But I think that while that might be one of the weaker parts of his game, I don't think that it's something that is going to keep them from going to the Super Bowl like he's led his team to before.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they have some offensive line injuries that they're dealing with, so he might be on the run a bit more. There's been talks this offseason about not running him as much, which I think is a mistake. That's one of his best weapons is his size and his mobility. that is attached to that cannon arm of his. It'll be interesting to see how they use Christian McCaffrey this year now that Jonathan Stewart is gone. They did pick up C.J. Anderson, so whether he'll just be a replacement or whether they try and use McCaffrey as a feature back. I'm not sure that he can handle that kind of workload, but he's a dynamic player, and it'd be great if he could, because he could be a really major weapon for them. They also lose Charles Johnson, who retired this year. One of their best defensive ends, kind of in the shadow of Julius Peppers, but he was a really dominant guy in his time. So there'll definitely be a loss for him there. They also lost Andrew Norwell on the offensive line, which was a huge get for Jacksonville and a big loss for the Panthers. I have them going. I had 9-7, 10-6.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to put them in single-digit wins because I think that their offense is talented enough, especially with the addition of DJ Moore. There's been a lot of good things we've been hearing from camp, but I don't see them being better than the Falcons. So I guess I'll have them at 10-6, but still taking third place due to whatever nonsense tiebreakers they have in there.
Yeah, and
they have a rough schedule as well.
Yeah. I'll say this, one thing that could really help Cam and that Panthers offense is using Christian McCaffrey more, and Christian McCaffrey having a breakout season. I think that he's capable of even more than he did in his rookie year, and I see him in the same type of role as Alvin Kamara, and with the same possibilities. He's a skilled back, a running back, a catching back. He can make people miss. He's fast. I would use Christian McCaffrey more going forward, and that could really help Cam out. And then bringing up the bottom of the South, I'm going to vent a little bit here. My Tampa Bay Bucks, I got them going 5-11, and a big reason why is I have them starting the year at best 1-2, if not 0-3. And when you get off to a start like that, it's hard to recover. I think that Jameis Winston getting in trouble this offseason is just, pretty much unacceptable. You're going into, I believe, your fourth year. You gotta take control. You gotta be the leader that everyone needs you to be. I got a quote here about Jameis that I want to read from Hall of Fame head coach Tony Dungy. Quote, "For Jameis, he has to be a leader all the time. He's a great leader on the field. He's a great leader in the locker room. Now he has to take it on his shoulders to lead off the field from the team as well. He's got to stay out of trouble. And the moment that your off the field stuff starts getting you suspended, especially as a star quarterback, you're just really hurting your team. And I expect more out of Jameis. And I think it's going to be a tough year in Tampa. Tell me I'm wrong, Stoyo.
I'm going to have to disagree with the Dungy quote. I don't think you need to lead off the field. You just need to be a decent human being in the real world. That has nothing to do with leading. But I have the Bucks going 3-13.
Wow.
I have them being swept in the division.
Okay.
Because this is one of the toughest divisions in football. I feel that there's going to be a lot of changes made over there at the end of the season. I think they're going to fire their head coach. They could fire their GM. They could clean house and get rid of Famous. A few things that I did like is drafting Vita Vea, which I think is a great mid-round value. And they did trade for Jason Pierre-Paul, which I still think he has something left in him and can be somewhat productive. But overall, I think the Bucks are just going to have a rough year, and it's just going to be a shit show down there. And I do like Mike Evans. I think he's one of the best up-and-coming receivers in the game. Mm-hmm. He's just stuck on a bad team.
One thing I'll say is that they have a decent backup in Ryan Fitzpatrick, who could keep them alive a little bit. And I do like the draft pick of Ronald Jones out of USC. I think that he could be a very valuable piece of the team this year. And that could help the situation. What do you think about Tampa this year, Gavin?
I have them last place in the NFC South,
Yeah.
and I truly struggle to find how they win more than 3 games
Wow.
this year. And I honestly wouldn't be shocked if they went 0-16.
No way.
I'm totally serious. If you look at who they have to play, they have to play the NFC East. So a lot of talented teams on there. I know we disagree on the
Skins.
Redskins,
Yeah.
but the Giants, the Redskins, the Cowboys, who they play in Dallas, so that's obviously against the Bucs, and then the Eagles. They have to play the Panthers, the Saints, and the Falcons twice. We all have in double-digit wins. They play the AFC North as well, so you're looking at the Browns, the Steelers, who are going to be better than people think they are going to be this year, but they do play that in Tampa, so that is as close to a lock of a win as I think that they're going to get. But then you got to play the Steelers, the Bengals in Cincinnati, and then the Ravens in Baltimore. Those are going to be really, really tough wins for them. And so now that's your schedule. And then the 49ers as well, and that's in Tampa Bay. And if Jimmy Garoppolo is as great as everyone thinks that he's going to be, I don't think their defense is going to be good enough to stop that offense. So I really see them winning 2, maybe 3 games this year.
Wow.
I totally agree.
Even with Jameis Winston, him being gone these first 4 games is truly irrelevant in my mind because you play the Saints at home, the Saints in New Orleans, the Eagles at home, the Steelers at home, but you're talking about 3 of the best teams in the NFL right now. And then you play the Bears, but you play them in Chicago.
Yeah.
4 games in, the Bears will have some real-time experience with their new team. And then they play the Falcons. I could easily see them going 0-5. Jamarcus Winston. Just naming quarterbacks that make bad decisions. Finding their names. I could easily see them going 0-5, even if Winston were starting all of those games.
I agree. I have them having 1 5-game losing streak and 1 4-game losing streak in the same season. So yeah, it's a shit show.
Yeah, and hear me out, man. I'm not a Jameis Winston hater. You guys know this.
Oh, you're a super fan.
I was a big time fan. This is a guy who almost went his entire college career without a loss. This guy was incredible in college. This guy has the arm talent to destroy, and something's not right. And I think it's mentally. I think it's upstairs. I think he's getting into trouble on the off the field. I don't even know if he's leading his team as well as he should. I mean, some of the stuff last year, the eating the W, and some of the stuff was kind of embarrassing to be a fan of his. And I want to know what's going on. I mean, you got to grow up. To be a star quarterback in this league, you got to be accountable, and you got to be a leader. And I just, hey, I'm one of his biggest fans, and I got him going 5-11. So if that tells you anything, I'm not sold on Tampa Bay this year. So we'll see. You guys are right there.
They have too much talent to go 0-16.
Yeah.
But I honestly wouldn't be shocked if they went 0-16, just because they're poorly led. Their quarterback and their coach seem that they struggle to get them together. But I think that they've made too many upgrades in the offseason, particularly on the defensive line, to go winless this season. But their schedule might be the most brutal out of all the other teams.
Yeah, and as much as I'm hating, I'm gonna say, here comes the homer in me. I say the Bucks floor is 3-13. I say they at least win 3, and that's not acceptable. I'm not making excuses, so.
So you're telling me the ceiling is the roof?
Yeah, the ceiling's definitely the roof in Tampa this year. So, all right, let's move on from Tampa. Let's go to the NFC West. Stoyo, who do you have bringing home the NFC West?
Hold on, let me get to my notes.
I'm thinking.
I have the Rams.
Yeah.
I have the Rams going 12-4. and have them winning it. They really had a great offseason. They added Sue. They added a bunch of people. I don't know, it's going to be very interesting to see. Just a few years ago, there was no team in Los Angeles, and now we have one that's going to make some noise. So hopefully the fans are going to support them. It'll be interesting to watch if Goff can take another step forward and to just make sure last season wasn't a fluke. I'm excited to see Todd Gurley out there, one of the premier running backs in this game. So yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be great. Looking forward to watching them play.
Yeah, do you agree, Gavin?
Yeah, I also have them winning the division. I have them going 12-4.
Okay.
It's the majority of the losses that they had personnel-wise, they were able to replace. They got Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib, and Sam Shields to replace Tremaine Johnson. They brought Ndamukong Suh in just to help with the rotation there on the defensive line. They brought in Brandon Cooks to replace Sammy Watkins. The one thing that I really wonder about the Rams team is their defensive ends. They traded away Robert Quinn to Miami and did not bring anyone in really to replace him. No defensive ends. They did have a rookie, John Franklin Myers, that they drafted, but he's unproven. So while they might have one of the most dominant interior lines to ever play the game with Sue and Aaron Donald, assuming that he continues to play for them this year, I think that they're going to struggle to put pressure from the outsides. So that there's definitely some question marks there, and they will be the most scrutinized team this offseason. I'm sure they have been. When a team goes from worst to first like that, especially with a rookie head coach, they're going to look and see and just put that under the microscope and see what they were doing and see if they can counter that. But I also think that McVay is too smart to just run the same playbook and the exact same system as last year, and he's gonna counter their counter.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I mean, their defense, I'm not too worried about the defense. I think it's going to be nasty, especially if I've heard they're closing in on talks with Aaron Donald. So if they get a deal done with Donald, on top of everything else they've done this offseason, I mean, I'm not too worried. I want to see if McVay can back it up for a second straight season, which I don't really see why he couldn't. They drafted a running back with the 176th overall pick, running back John Kelly out of Tennessee, who says he's, quote, a better route runner than Alvin Kamara. So we'll see if he
All right.
we'll see if he backs it up. He plays a similar style, but I don't know. I mean, that's some high. He thinks pretty highly of himself, so we'll see. But I do have the Rams going 13-3 and winning the division, and then they'll have to prove, go 13-3, win the division, get home field, and then prove that you can win in the playoffs. Jared Goff, get the job done in the playoffs. The offense kind of disappeared a little bit against Atlanta in the playoffs, so I'll be interested to see what the Rams do, especially in January. I think we all expect them to be good until that point. I have the Seahawks. Actually, I'm not sure. I have the Seahawks and Niners both going 9-7, and that's going to come down to head-to-head, I'm pretty sure. How do you have the Seahawks going, Stoyo?
Unfortunately, since I like Seattle, I have the Seahawks crashing and not surviving all the defensive departures. They lost Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, Sherman, Cam Chancellor is gone as well.
And probably
Sheldon
Earl.
Richardson and Earl Thomas is holding out.
Yeah.
So basically, out of that defense, you have pretty much Bobby Wagner left and KJ Wright.
Which are no slouches, by the way.
they are no slouches, but it's not the Legion of Boom that we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that Seattle's going to take a massive step back and are pretty much going into a rebuild mode. They lost their tight end. They still have no running game. They did add Rashad Penny. I don't know if that's going to be enough.
I think he already got hurt, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, when you lose like this many studs on defense, I just don't see Seattle being able to overcome that. And last year, Russell Wilson was just like making magic out of nothing. And I don't think you can just have Russell Wilson running out there being exposed. Like, it just takes one hit of him just like running around and then to like ruin his season or career. So I am just worried that Russell Wilson will not be able to like continue playing the same football that he has been without a better offensive line.
What record?
Unfortunately, 6-10.
6-10, damn.
Yep.
I'm going 9-7 with Seattle, and I got them finishing second, barely edging out the Niners with like head-to-head or something. I think Russell Wilson, he's magic when he's got it going on. He pulls some stuff out of his butt sometimes. Like, he's crazy, and if he can stay healthy and they can protect him a little bit, he could, with a lot of the emphasis off of the defense, it wouldn't surprise me if Russell Wilson was in MVP consideration this year. And if Rashad Penny can get healthy, he could be a really good back. I really like Shaquem Griffin joining his twin brother on the defense. What do you think about the Seahawks, Gavin?
Yeah, the Seahawks will ride and die with Russell Wilson this year.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense does have some really talented players, but as Stoyo mentioned, the number of players on the same tier that they lost is almost double what they have left over. They have some really good role players there still. They were even able to get some quality time out of Barkevious Mingo, who was a major bust there in Cleveland. But I don't know that those types of role players are going to be enough to get that defense up to a point where Russell Wilson doesn't have to throw for 450 yards a game. They also lost Paul Richardson and Jimmy Graham, who accounted for, I want to say it was 14 or 16 touchdowns from last year. And replacement-wise, they brought in Brandon Marshall, who I guess kind of could be Jimmy Graham, just a really big, tall dude. And
what do you expect out of him this year? Do you think he's going to do much in Seattle?
It's hard to say. I think that he might be the like a Jimmy Graham type replacement, because Jimmy Graham isn't really a receiver, but he's more of he's kind of in between the tight end and receiver, that hybrid.
Uh-huh.
I think Brandon Marshall, he's lost a step, but he's still got the size, he's got the hands, so they might use him as that middle of the field big body guy, like they used Jimmy Graham for at times this last year, but. Their offensive line is still struggling a little bit. Their defense isn't as stout, so I have them at 7-9 this year,
okay.
And 7 of those wins being because Russell Wilson is one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So fun to watch.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Brandon Marshall is 34.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if he has anything left in him the last 2 years.
I said he lost a step.
Yeah, but that's
I counted
a
for
step
him.
and a half.
Who do you think right now could get more separation, Brandon Marshall or Des Bryant?
Des Bryant.
That's like 29. I better hope so. But who'd be most proud to rub it in your face?
Oh, Des.
I don't know.
Marshall's calmed down. Give credit where credit's due. He's calmed down.
He's matured a little.
I don't know.
After he got out of Chicago, he was like, that's not so bad here.
Well, playing for Trestman will humble you a little bit. I got the Niners going 9-7, finishing third, just barely getting edged out by Seattle. I think Jimmy Jesus, as the Niners like to call him. You know what? This isn't going to be a popular opinion. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is quite as good as everyone's got him out to be. I think he's a good quarterback, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that he has a ton of help, especially on offense. The thing I love about the Niners is Reuben Foster. If he's on the field and he's healthy and he stays out of trouble, that dude is ridiculous. But, Gavin, tell me who are Garoppolo's weapons that are going to make him a difference maker?
Well, he'll get Pierre Garçon back.
Okay.
From an injury from last year, so he didn't get to play with him at all last year when he played. So he'll get a really good possession receiver, Pierre Garçon. Marquise Goodwin and him had really great rapport last year, and we're hearing news that it's very similar this year. And we've seen the Kyle Shanahan offense really focus on one guy, and the rumor is that's going to be Marquise Goodwin this year. They also drafted a wide receiver, Dante Pettis, that's shown a lot of talent this offseason. And then their tight end, it's kind of under the radar, talented guy in George Kittle.
Okay.
I think that he's going to be a good weapon for Garoppolo. And then the big question mark on offense for me is Jerick McKinnon.
Yeah.
Can he be the feature guy? Or are they going to split time between McKinnon and Matt Breida? They did just sign Alfred Morris recently, but he hasn't been able to break a starting role. He wasn't able to beat out Darren McFadden when they were in Dallas. So I don't know if he's a major factor, but it'd be interesting to see how McKinnon and Breida work splitting time. McKinnon is really great out of the backfield, so that could be a good weapon there for Garoppolo. But I don't know how great of a between-the-tackles guy he's going to be, or whether he can carry the entire load at least.
So what's your Niners record?
I have the Niners going 9-7.
Okay.
I think that Garoppolo will lose his first game this year. I'm calling it now. He will lose his first game. But I think that with another year in Kyle Shanahan's offense, another year of being a starter, a full offseason, the addition of Richard Sherman, helping out that defense, I think that there should be some big improvements there from the team as a whole.
Nice. Well, what do you think, Stoyo?
I have the Niners going 10-6.
Okay.
And I do believe that Garoppolo is going to be one of the elite QBs of the future. I was willing to pay 2 first-round picks for him last offseason instead of getting Trubisky. But it is what it is.
2 first, also, we could have had him for a second, apparently.
No, we couldn't. No one could except
Kyle Shanahan. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you had dinner with Belichick, it would be available to you.
Here we go with the conspiracy theories.
You have to. There's no way that anyone could have gotten him.
So, okay, so you got him going 10-6, but what are the reasons? Is it all Garoppolo?
No, it's just not just Garoppolo. I think the Jerick McKinnon ad is a good ad. Yeah, John Lynch gave him a lot of money, but I like when a GM takes a gamble, especially a gamble like this one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of his. I think he had some good impact in Minnesota. If you look at his average per yard, he had a 4.8 average a season, a 5.2. So those are the kind of numbers that you want to see out of a running back. Offensively, you don't have a lot of wide receivers. I think Pierre Garçon is a good number 2, but I would not call him a number 1. So overall, pretty much the 49ers are going to go as far as Garoppolo takes them, as long as he stays away from porn stars.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think Dante Pettis is a little underrated. I think that he could be a good fit there, Washington Husky. And he's a speedster, just like Marquise Goodwin. So we'll see. I think we're all pretty much on the same page, 9 or 10 wins for the Niners. Arizona Cardinals, Gavin, how are they finishing?
Ooh, they are going to have it rough.
I agree.
This season.
We all agree, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of the same for them on offense this last year. They've got Larry Fitzgerald somehow defying Father Time and still being a really good receiver, but not having much outside of that, at least nothing proven. They did draft Christian Kirk, who has shown some flashes this offseason, but it remains to be seen how that extends out an entire full 16 games. They get David Johnson back, which will be great for them, but their offensive line will take a step back after losing Jared Veldheer in the offseason, replacing him with the underperforming Andre Smith. The other big question for them, maybe the biggest, is their quarterback situation.
Yep.
They have drafted Josh Rosen, 10th overall, out of UCLA, who a lot of people, or a number of people, consider to be the most NFL ready out of the top 5 QBs, all the guys that are really being considered for first round consideration. But he has shown he's struggled a little bit this offseason so far. And then their backup could be their starter. The next option would be Sam Bradford, who, when he's on the field, he is a really good quarterback. But the problem is that he is made of glass and can only take so many hits, and sometimes it's only 2 or 3, and then he's done. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, whether they throw Josh Rosen in after Bradford exits in the second quarter of the second game, or whether they trust the former Bear great Mike Glennon to come in and lead their team to some more losses.
Yeah.
I think they play not in the toughest division, but there's some solid teams there, or at least they have either a really good QB or a solid squad altogether. I have them finishing last place, going 4-12.
Yep, you read my mind there. 4-12. I'm gonna go ahead and say, I don't know who those guys are saying that Josh Rosen's the most NFL ready. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Josh Rosen is not the chosen one. His college nickname. I'm starting Sam Bradford week 1 until he gets hurt, and I'm not letting Mike Glennon touch the field unless Josh Rosen gets hurt. Bradford gets hurt. Hey, throw Rosen out there, develop him, get him going. I don't expect a lot of success, especially in year 1 out of Rosen. And David Johnson coming back is nice. Fitzgerald is a good weapon for a rookie quarterback when he touches the field. But other than that, what's Arizona got? Not a lot. They got Chandler Jones, Patrick Peterson, but I think it's going to be a rough year. 4-12, I agree with you, Gavin. What do you think, Stoyo?
Same, 4-12.
Damn.
I don't know if anyone mentioned Christian Kirk, who they drafted. And if you want to keep Fitzgerald around, you cannot have Mike Glennon throw the ball to him. Not even in practice. He is going to take Fitz's will to play football and send him into early retirement. So the best thing for the Cardinals would be to cut Mike Glennon right now.
Yeah.
I will say they've had some of the worst starting quarterbacks over the last 5 years, and Larry Fitzgerald somehow is still an amazing receiver. So he might be one of the most underrated receivers of our generation.
Fitzgerald and DeAndre Hopkins getting it done with nobodies.
Yep.
I don't know. Deshaun Watson is not a nobody anymore.
Well, yeah, but he got hurt. I'm looking for a big year.
Are you talking about Tom Savage? You're not a fan of Tom Savage?
No, Tom Savage is not very savage. I'm saying I'm expecting a big-time year out of DeAndre Hopkins. Book it. Watson's gonna make him look like Jesus out there.
J.J. Watt will make him look great.
So, all right, well, hey, this is a longer episode. It's our NFC preview, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. It's been a good one. Guys, good job. Hopefully Tampa doesn't go 0-16.
No, only 2 teams have ever done that. That's for someone truly special.
Yep. And so I can't wait for the season. We're only, 3 weeks away? And can't wait for week 1. So we'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, or leave a comment. And have a great week, guys. Thanks again. Great success. Peace out.